Hi, Hector. Thanks for coming on Human Athlete Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. As always, on the podcast, we jump straight in, and I would love to kind of break down, not like we'll kind of go through your story, but kind of how you got into swimming and what those kind of first years were like, and how this journey started.
So I've been swimming from like since I was like 7 years old, and I used to go to a state school locally,
Hmm.
and I didn't. It was quite hard balancing swimming and academics. So my father, at the time, realized that and decided to set up a swimming club alongside a local private school called Ellesmere College.
No way.
So he kind of combined the two. I don't know if you know Millfield.
I've heard of it. I don't know about it too much,
So
but
that's like one of the biggest sporting colleges
hmm.
in the UK, and that offers loads of sports and academics as well. So my father set up the Ellesmere College Titans, which is what the swimming club's called.
Hmm.
He did it all like voluntarily, coached and stuff, and started like sending out like recruitment letters and stuff to all of the best swimmers all around the country. I don't know, in football you have like a ranking system. It's
No,
just
but yeah.
scout
Hmm.
based, but in
Hmm.
swimming you have like rankings. You can go online, you can see all of the top 100 kids in each age group in each event, and then you can like send out an email recruiting them to this school.
Hmm.
So gradually the club started to progress, and it became like a really big club in the UK. And then I think in 2016 it was like the most successful club that's ever been at British national championships.
No
And
way.
so it only took like 8 years or something to go from that to that.
Mm.
Um, and being in that environment, I just kept progressing. And then obviously swimmers from all around the country, the best swimmers coming and training with me. Um, just kind of like you keep wanting to do it, and it motivates you each day. So
Hmm.
that's why how I was like how it all started in the sport. And then yeah, after school I wanted to take a step up from like private school swimming or like club swimming within the
Hmm.
UK. So I decided to move. There was a few options. I could either go to Loughborough or
Hmm.
Bath, which I'm
Hmm.
sure you're aware of. They're like the best universities in the UK for
The
swimming,
sport. Yeah.
like professionally. But I didn't really. There was three other boys who I was in contention with. I wasn't really in the spot to qualify for the Olympics at that
Hmm.
time. This was in 2019. So there was these two or three other boys who were better than me, faster than me, older than me, bigger, whatever. They were training in Loughborough and Bath, and I thought, why would I want to go there and train with them and train with my competitors
Hmm.
when I can take myself out of that environment, go somewhere else, and train with another coach where I'm not seeing what they're doing, and just like focus on myself and try and
Hmm.
like catch them up and beat them.
Hmm.
And then also the other advantage to that was that if I failed and I fell short of qualifying for the Olympics, which was like possible because at that point it was a long shot, and I would have lived in France for 2 years and I've
Hmm.
experienced the whole new culture and everything.
Hmm.
Um, and so I heard about my coach Philippe Luca.
Hmm.
He's like notoriously known
Hmm.
in open water swimming for being a psychopathic coach. He wears like metallic bracelets, earrings, whatever. Really aggressive in the training and a lot of distance. So I'd gone from like a nice snug program, boarding at Ellesmere College,
Yeah.
swimming, like just combining my academics to swimming each day. I was swimming like 45 to 50 kilometers a week. I was doing about 15 hours in the pool and about
Hmm.
4 hours in the gym
Okay.
in the UK. And then when I just was kind of just, I'd never been to France, didn't speak, well, I'd been when I was younger, but never like been there for a long period of time and didn't speak the language, just dropped there, um, like drop zoned in, um, started going to all of the training sessions, and it was quite like a big shock to the system. And
Hmm.
also having to like fend for myself, like being quite like a privileged kid, being like growing up and stuff. I didn't know how to use like the dishwasher. I didn't know how to use the washing machine or anything.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I just arrived and I had no idea how to do anything. And because like one of the conundrums with it all was that I was moving into a newly built like student accommodation because my dad wanted me to learn, although I wasn't a student, he wanted me to learn to live for myself, not just like
Hmm.
put me in a nice apartment and there you go, like type of thing.
Hmm.
He wanted me to experience that whole culture. So I was in a student accommodation and just newly been built, but it hadn't been finished when I arrived. So I was put into like a temporary place. And so my parents left. And so I was there for like 3 weeks in a temporary apartment. And I hadn't, because when my parents had dropped me off, they had the car, obviously. And they could have driven me around the whole of Montpellier, picking up all of the necessities like beddings and everything. And I hadn't thought to pack any of that because I was a stupid little 18-year-old. So then my parents had to go home after a week because that's when they were planning on going home, and I hadn't moved into an original apartment. And so then after that, that was why it was really hard the first 6 months when I was in France. Having to go, like, with the training and the intensity of all of the training, going around and finding all of the things that I hadn't packed, being unprepared. So yeah,
it's crazy. It's I think there's also obviously the whole thing of making that decision is so cool in itself, in that you've gone, I'm not going to train like those guys, and just kind of like, how are you going to catch them up if you're doing the same things as them in that kind of thing? So to just boldly kind of go, okay, I'll find like, I'll create my own route to get there, and I'm not just going to follow these standard kind of preset ones. I think that's pretty special already.
Exactly. And like mentally as well, if you're training with the same people but they're beating me in the training, then how am I going to be able, in my mind, be able to tell myself that I can beat them in a competition? And it would have been likely that they would have been beating me in the training because they were at that time better than me. So yeah, that was like my logic behind it. I don't want to be getting beaten by them every day. Take myself out of that and do something bold.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you the space to build, like, whether it be confidence or whatever, but it gives you the space to build yourself. Like, this is me as a swimmer. This is how I'm going to mentally, like, you're kind of your ego, your identity in your head as you talk to yourself. You build that. And so it's not affected by having those guys that you're competing with day in, day out in that environment. Like, you'd never see Federer and Nadal training together for the Grand Slam.
No.
Because when it comes to it, they've got to be built up as an individual at their peak to then go up against the other person, not every day. It's I think it's a really clever move, and obviously it set you up pretty well.
And also it's the aspect that they didn't know what I was doing.
True.
They would be much more confident if I was in their training program and they were beating me every day. They can have that confidence going into a race. But because it was like a secretive what I was doing and stuff, and they don't know what I'm doing, what times I'm swimming, I think that played into it a lot as well.
Exactly, 100%. I think it was a really kind of clever, bold move at a young age. It's pretty good. So if we even like simplify even more, that move to France, that move's a huge move, just moving in itself. Like, you think, like, for me, I moved out to Switzerland when I was pretty young and moved back to England at 16. So I get that move a lot. And there's a lot that goes into play that isn't about swimming, that isn't about even like that's the simple stuff of just kind of like looking after yourself. Like, I don't know how good your French was, but there's a lot in that moving already. And then you add the pressure on of going to swimming. You add the pressure of, your apartments and being prepared with that. How was that? Like, it sounds pretty, like, obviously overwhelming.
It was. I didn't speak any French. I was really timid, like shy, because I thought like the whole French people hate to speak English type of
stereotype.
So I was scared to speak any English, and I didn't speak any French, so I didn't really make any friends for the first like 3-4 months. And I was so tired all the time that even on the weekend I didn't really have the energy to go out and join in with that social group. I wasn't really invited at that time anyway, because I hadn't really made much of an effort to communicate with any of them. And then it was in December, like, you do like a winter competition. So it's the French Championships, and they have them in England and stuff as well. So I finished that, and then it was like Christmas time, and right after that we went out on a party, and that's when it finally all clicked. I finally started to communicate with all of the group and make friends. And then when I came back in January from Christmas, it was so much. I started to enjoy it so much more. Like, I remember from September to December, I'd always be there, like, calling my parents up saying, after December, I'm coming home. I'm just doing 4 months out here, and then I'm coming home. I can't do this anymore. And then I went out in January again. They persuaded me to continue it, and I was like, yeah, it is the best. I'm gonna continue it. Stayed out there, and then it just started. I started really to enjoy it, make friends, and the training kind of became more fun as well when you can socialize and stuff.
Yeah, it's a great thing that, you know, when you can kind of, like, I know as well, I was saying I wanted to go home for like a year. Like, I get that. And it's a crazy thing, because once you're put in that situation, it is completely out of that comfort zone. It's completely out of everything you knew. And then, like, I think about that pressure that you're putting yourself under, that, you know, the coach obviously is pretty, like you said, psycho. And then like the friends and stuff like that. It's almost like, so like you said, you're so tired, like you're trying to process everything. And that takes up so much energy that to then try and do this, like it sounds so difficult.
Yeah.
But,
and go on.
But like, you know, like you said, once it clicks, and then once you get, you know, whether it be the more the fun, and you start to enjoy it, and you start to understand it, and your body adapts to the training, and obviously language comes, that's when obviously those huge benefits have come.
Yeah. Like I found as well, once I started to make friends and stuff, my training improved massively.
Interesting. It's like that social fun. It's important. I was speaking to like Sam Corty, a GB rower, and she was saying how you know how this culture is, like, you know, how like that Kobe Bryant kind of culture, right? Where do you do it all by yourself. You wake up at 3, you do all this, right? And it's this very like ruthless kind of always training more than everyone else and doing it. And it's like, it's great because obviously it will create results and you are productive and blah, blah, blah. But is when you see yourself as this like rigid athlete, and you put yourself, like, you see yourself as that kind of, oh, I don't have any friends, I'm going to do this way, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to outwork everyone, is you also kind of take the love out of it, and you take out, which is kind of, you know, that athlete rule book, that athlete identity that is kind of the common culture. And by doing that and having more fun, and it's actually okay to do that and still perform at your best. It's like kind of like a misconception, like you know, seeing footballers smile on the pitch if you're losing. People be like, why is he smiling on the pitch? Because he can still be enjoying it and performing to his best.
Exactly.
Regardless. And it's that kind of misconception. You kind of like, that stereotype is quite a difficult one to overcome.
Yeah, like athletes aren't robots.
Exactly.
And I always tell myself that my coach is quite stubborn and always thinks that if you're off in a training or something, it's because you're mentally off, not because you're just physically tired. He can't accept being physically tired. And so I'm always there, like, in my head, like, because I wouldn't dare ever like say it to his face or anything. He doesn't speak any English anyway, so not that I probably wouldn't be able to communicate that across very well. But I'm always, when I'm just swimming along, I'm just there like, I'm not a robot, all right? Like, I'm really tired here. It's not because I'm just like not got the right mental attitude here. It's because I'm damn tired from swimming 90 kilometers a week.
Yeah. What's it been like? What was it like kind of coming in with him straight away, and that like kind of first 4 or 5 months?
So I'd heard like rumors about it all. But he's coached loads of Olympic champions and stuff. So you hear rumors of, and also people exaggerate trainings as well.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what it's like in football as well. It's like, oh yeah. So I came into it, and the first week was like we were building into it. But I thought like I was just there like, oh, I didn't really think that he was building us into it. I just thought that was like
this is like the most intense week.
Oh, this is easy. Like, this is easy. We were still swimming more than what we were swimming. I was swimming before in the UK, but I was like, oh, this is easy. What's everyone on about? Like, this is a misconception. And then after the next week, it gradually got a bit more, probably increased by 20%, and then the next week 20%, and then we just like peaked out, and we were just repping that 80-90k weeks for like 6-7 months until competition. And it's hard because when he wants us to do like competitions as well when we're in like deep training weeks, and you're in like in a deep hole, and he expects you to perform, and so you're going to like Toulouse, like local cities, doing competitions, and you're just like, you're 10% off your best time, and it's just, they're like, why am I doing this? But then when you get to the final competition and you're rested up and everything, and all of the training, it's like a training block. You start to taper it down, and then you perform, and then it's that like, oh, it's all been worth it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's similar because when I was doing kind of the research on him and you're like in that thing, I could relate it. I had this coach at Salford called Warren Joyce, who's the Man United 23s guy who brought through Rashford and Pogba, like brilliant. And when I first went to Salford, like the first thing I did was like a plank off with everyone for like 10, 12 minutes. And then like what we used to do is train like so much double sessions every day and then play a game in the evening. And we'd have it like a session in the morning and everything. Everyone would be absolutely gone and we wouldn't play well or whatever. But it was that bigger picture that they have that they
Yeah,
see that, you're at the time going, this is stupid. Like, I don't get this, blah, blah, blah. But they're building that mental armory. They're building that physical, like adapting you to it for the bigger game
yeah.
that you don't always see as a young
It's
athlete.
it's like mentally toughing you up as well because
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, it is the bigger picture. It's not just about whether I can go and perform in Toulouse
Mm-hmm.
competition on a weekend. It's about that final competition where everybody's there,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's freshened up, everybody's performing, and everybody's watching. And that's
Yeah.
where the coach wants you to perform because it's good for his reputation as the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you really want to perform. Like I'd much prefer to be performing on the bigger stage than at
Mm-hmm.
a little competition with in Toulouse or
Yeah. No, it's
or
is it like have you started to believe in that now? Like having been with him like a couple of years now, is that changed and
yeah.
that relationship
Like
is
um now I just prefer not to go and do the little competitions.
okay?
So there was one like 2 weeks ago which they went and did in a Cannes, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's about 2 hours away from
Mm-hmm.
where I live in Martigues.
Yeah.
I used to live in Montpellier the last 2 years, but this year
Yeah.
we relocated, so I'm now in
Okay.
Martigues. And I decided not to go there because the rest of the group went there, but I just didn't want to go because mentally after it's quite hard, and I just prefer to do a big block of training, um, and then get to the big competitions that I know I'm going to perform at when I'm going to be rested, and just do that rather than do these. And it takes up my weekend, and the weekend's like something I cherish.
Yeah.
It's like survival. You're surviving like mentally and physically. 10
Mm-hmm.
sessions a week. Now I'm doing 11 this year, and I'm upping it for this next Olympic cycle because
Mm-hmm.
I've had to change something. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to do that, and it's like 11 sessions a week, and you're just getting through it. And the weekend's that thing. It's like Christmas Day. You know,
Mm.
you have the big build up, and then Christmas Day finally comes, and then it goes so fast, and then you're there like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
It's all over. It's all over in a flash.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the weekend is for me. Like the 11 sessions, then the weekend comes, and it's like, oh well, we go again. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to spend my time traveling to a competition that I know I'm going to swim bad at, waste my weekend training as well, and then get back in on Monday morning
Yeah.
with my confidence dropped and not
Running on
a fun
empty.
weekend.
Yeah. No, and I think it's important as well to like I was just saying, is that culture of always having to perform and always do it, to be able to take little breaks out of it or to kind of come back and look at it at a different angle gives you that perspective. And also, you're fresh, bright and early on Monday, ready to then kind of get even more out of the training. And once
Yeah.
there is benefits to doing that kind of like method, because obviously your body adapts and you do mentally toughen up, but at the same time you're then not maybe getting as much quality for the quantity that you're doing, and it's exhausting. Like it does kind of kill. Like I always kind of thought that it's great, but at the same time there's positives to living a life, like getting some time away from it and being a person and enjoying the time and the rest time that you get away from that, because it is suffocating sometimes.
Yeah, it's like you want to have another life on the weekend than you do of being an
Mm-hmm.
athlete. You want to live that normal life.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout all my childhood at school, I'd always be training and stuff, and I'd look at the other kids who were going and doing the rugby and
Mm-hmm.
the RAF,
Mm-hmm.
and all the cricket and football and all of that stuff. And I would never do that. I'd do my swimming instead.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be doing like as a team games, all friendly, fun, and after it, they'd all be chatting about it, and I just wouldn't be really be able to be involved in that. And I always just imagine like what it'd be like to
Mm-hmm.
live that normal life of not of an athlete, and that's kind of what the weekend is like for me. It's like where I can forget about what I've done that week,
Mm-hmm.
forget about all that swimming, and just kind of relax and live a normal life and go shopping, go to restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
and do what I want to do. Whereas in the
Mm-hmm.
week, it's more like recovery, train, and
Mm-hmm.
like sleep.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I'm kind of questioning and working on myself at the moment. And it's come up with a few conversations I've had in the last couple of weeks of we haven't when, especially when you're starting so young, is that you then set the pressure on yourself, or like, for example, you're pretty close with your dad in that swimming environment. There's a lot of pressure there. There's the pressure of the club and everything as that builds. And at such a young age for so long, you kind of take out like that authority and that like, thing that you live under. You live under this weight of pressure. You live under this kind of way that you have to live, kind of that athlete rule book again of this is how you're supposed to, A to B, this is what you have to do. And for so long, you never really get a chance to like kind of rebel in a way. You never get a chance to, or it's even more difficult to find yourself in that and give more space for yourself. And so it's very interesting. Like for my own life, I'm looking back going, I spent the last 15 years chasing this dream over and over again, making the sacrifices like yourself, doing all these things. And it's like, whoa, hold up. Like, who am I here? Like, what is life without this massive kind of rock on top of your shoulders? And so it's very interesting to kind of think that we don't get that time to rebel as a teenager, as a child. We kind of have to just keep following the standards and the expectations and the pressure that are around us. And it's very difficult. And
even when it gets hard and you're there, like, I just want to pack it in and stop doing football or stop doing swimming and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hits reality. You're there like, but what am I going to do instead of this? Like
mm-hmm.
I've made that sacrifice to pursue swimming and I didn't go to university. So I'm like two years, I'm now 20 years old. I'm almost 3 years behind all of my other year groups. So if I was to go to university now, I would, I'd be going with the 3 years below me people, like that age group. And so it's like, what do I do if I just quit swimming? It would just be empty. And then also, then you look to the times where you do really enjoy it when you're performing and stuff. The training, I don't really enjoy. It's the performing.
Yeah.
And for me, I've done this now for such a long time. I want to achieve something. I'm quite ambitious, like, person, and I don't really want to just stop. Like, I could just like happily stop, like, after the Olympics, but it's like something I want to go on and achieve something in the sport. I don't want to have done this all my life to just be there like, oh, well, I'm content with qualifying for the Olympics. That's all I want to achieve, because it's not. I want to achieve more than that. I want to, if I will be content when I have an Olympic medal. That's what I want. And Paris is the one I'm going for. Like success really. But the Olympic medal is the one I really, really, really want. So,
yeah, but it's crazy because there's also like I said, that enormous amount that comes with all that, and knowing that if you look back, it's kind of like, okay, whoa, what's actually like, I've done all this and I've done in those hard moments, just like, what have I done it for? Or like kind of all those questions that come up, and you look back and you kind of like, I've put an enormous amount into this, and it's kind of like, I can't stop here. But then there's an enormous amount of pressure that comes with carrying forward. So it's I feel like those moments that kind of every athlete faces when your kind of things are tough or you're questioning it, and for whatever reason, and you're looking back at what you've done, and you're obviously looking forward to what can you do and how's it going to work. They're really kind of scary times, and I think obviously they make you who you are in the end, but there's a lot that comes with it.
Yeah. And you hear all the time about athletes after they're retiring and stuff. They reach like depression and everything because they don't know what to do after they've finished this. They've been doing intense training all their life, and then their life's kind of just empty. They don't have that thing that they were doing for so long in their life, that hobby. That was like Tyson Fury's story, wasn't it? Like he beat Klitschko, he became undisputed heavyweight champion and everything, and then he kind of retired. And then he started like drug abusing and everything because he didn't know what to do. And you hear it all the time with swimmers. There's so many, and they also get out of shape incredibly fast because you're going from consuming I know personally that I consume 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. That's probably more than a normal swimmer because I'm swimming 17, 18 kilometers. Like I'm swimming, training for basically a marathon run. Well, I'm basically training for a marathon in running. It's 2 hour duration. So my sport's called marathon swimming. Whereas like in all of the other pool events, they're all sprint related. Like the longest sprint in the pool is longest distance in the pool is 15 minutes, and the shortest is like 20 seconds. So when they're training a maximum of 60, and some of them are training up to 30. Like so, after that, but regardless, they're still consuming a lot of calories. Then when they retire, they just start like eating the same amount that they were eating before, and they put on so much weight. And
Yeah.
then that also contributes to all of the like depression and everything, and what they're missing from when they've stopped doing that hobby that they've been doing for 15 years.
Yeah, it's such like that Tyson one's so interesting how like immediately after he'd won and he got that success, it was almost like, who am I now? Like what's my life? Like what is that?
Exactly.
Um,
You spend so long chasing that goal, and then once
mhm.
you've achieved it, they're like, well, where do I go from here?
That's your whole identity is that goal, right? That medal, that whatever. And
Yeah.
so, my then question is to you is as a obviously a young athlete like myself and we're pursuing it, is there that focus and that dream in the back of your mind alongside that? Can I find, like you said, on the weekends, can I find that happiness and that identity that no matter what goes on in the pool or obviously in the water, can I come back to that where there is the safety, where there is my identity, I'm okay, I'm still myself, I'm here. And that balance is something that, can we find that?
So I think in like the last year, I found like my identity, what I would, because before that I was always like, what am I going to do if I don't do swimming? But now I finally, I really, I have a passion for open water swimming. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think if I was to stop swimming, I'd still want to be involved in this
Mm-hmm.
whole open water like world. And so I'd probably want to do a job within that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, my dream job would be to host like races and stuff and events. I don't know if you
Cool.
know Swim Serpentine.
No, I don't know.
That's like one of the biggest, and Great North Swim as well.
Yeah,
It's
I've
in
heard of that.
Lake Windermere. That's got like 10,000 participants, and the Swim Serpentines in
Crazy.
Hyde Park in
Mm-hmm.
London, and that has about 7,000. And so there's quite a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
So like if you've got like 10,000, if you've got 10,000 swimmers, and you're the host of the race,
Yeah.
and you're charging like £50 per swimmer, you can make quite a lot of money. And it's one of my passions as well. Like I really enjoy it. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone always says like you're not going to be successful in anything unless you enjoy what you do.
100%. 100%.
So I've really found that that's what I want to do after my swimming career, and I've discovered that in the last year.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think that's important, like to have those things away from it, whether it be dreams and stuff like that you want to follow in a business alternative, or even just kind of simple hobbies, or like you said, having a normal routine to go back to on the weekend where you go out for food and do a bit of shopping, and having those kind of usual hobbies and habits that are
Yeah,
separate from it. Because there's like a normal, like you think about a normal job and all these kind of people, they're I heard something, this really really caught me off guard. Someone was saying how they have this job and I think they're in like tech or something. They're like, I don't enjoy it, and I look forward to just doing the stuff that outside of my job. And like obviously that's like not a thing you want to hear anyway, because I think that everyone has the right to enjoy what they do, but more so that he was like, oh, I kind of just do it for the money now, just to kind of then afford what I can do out of it. And then, but it's kind of like we've given this incredible privilege to do what we enjoy and to go follow these passions and like work so hard on these things. But then we also forget that there is the other side to it. And so it's the
yeah.
complete opposite side of the scale, is that we can also have a life on the side of it where there are other hobbies that we can enjoy that don't take away from our performance and excellence. And so it's trying to find that kind of balance between them both.
But is it a privilege though? Like doing a sport instead of an office job, is that a privilege? Because yeah, it's a different environment and it's a whole different job type of like job and stuff. But Tyson Fury as well, like another Tyson Fury
Yeah.
quote is he was there, like people always say to him that he's lucky that he gets to do like boxing for his like career and everything, and he gets paid millions of pounds to get in the ring and not punch someone's face in, and he gets paid loads for it. But then he says, am I lucky? Because the sacrifices that he's made throughout his whole life, from when he was like 14, 15, 16 years old, and all of his friends were going out to the park and stuff and going out to parties and going out to the pub and all that, and he wasn't. He was running like 10 miles down the road in the rain and stuff. And all of those sacrifices that he made then is now what's contributing to success now, and why he has a more relaxed lifestyle now and can earn a lot of cash doing what he loves. So is he privileged because he made all he like worked hard for all of that, and that's been his
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's, for me, it's more interesting because people say that you're lucky and you're privileged when and they say, the way that it's said can be as if you haven't worked for it and you haven't made all the sacrifices. And I think that, if they're looking at it from that perspective where they're not enjoying it and they're not doing it, it would seem that we're lucky and we're privileged. But at the same time, we have taken the risk, we have followed the dream that other people haven't, to put those sacrifices in and to go down that path when at 11, 12, 13, you could, easily say, this is not what I want to do. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, for me, it comes down that everyone can enjoy what they do. Everyone will find something they enjoy, that they can, they have the possibility, they have the choice to. But, but if and well, I've lost my train of thought, but everyone has that choice to go and do that and find the thing that's right for them. And
yeah,
as an athlete, if you do enjoy what you're doing, you do find a way to love what you do, and you do enjoy all of it, and that's incredible and that's amazing. But everyone on both sides of athletes, people in whatever context, can do the same. So I think it's relevant to kind of the perspective that it's seen.
I know from. Footballers get that argument a lot, that they're extremely lucky and privileged and everything because they earn ridiculous amount of cash and that. But when you think about it, there's so many, because there's that cash incentive to be a top footballer, and when you reach that top level you get all of that cash. There's so many kids and stuff going into that sport, so it's such a competitive sport. Whereas I'm not saying swimming's not a competitive sport, that's really a competitive sport, but in terms of privilege, yeah, I get to train outdoors in the south of France and stuff, and that's like my job. But I'm swimming like 25 hours a week. I'm doing 4 hours in the gym. And then between those sessions, that's not just free time, I'm recovering. So I am effectively working a 40, 50 hour job.
Yeah.
And I'm getting paid like the same as someone would in an office. So is it really privileged? Like, I think football is probably one of the most privileged sports, to be an athlete in. But you still got to work incredibly hard from a young age because it's so competitive, because there's so many kids going into it and everything.
Yeah, like the risk reward is the same as starting a startup. Everyone wants to start a startup and make millions off it, but how many startups are out there, millions and millions, that don't work? The same in football. There was a stat which said 1 out of every, I think it was 18 million plays professionally, that plays football.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
To even comprehend that is what? That doesn't make any sense. And that's not
that
luck.
Is literally risk to reward. Yeah, because think how many kids do play football and stuff, and some of them can dedicate until they're 18, 19 and that, and then not even earn a penny from it.
Or look at the people that are stuck in League Two, and they're maybe not at Salford, but at the smaller clubs where they're earning pretty similar wages, and you could probably go into non-league, play non-league, and have a job at the same time and earn way more. And it's these people have dedicated their whole life, and obviously the culture and the pressure can be really difficult. And so, is it really luck? Is it really being lucky or privileged? It's a very I think it's a very interesting and good point you make. I think it's definitely one to debate and think about.
Yeah.
Kind of moving forward, obviously, how was it for you? Obviously, kind of researching you and doing my thing, is that in those last 2-3 years, you've made that big jump up into this senior level. Obviously, you've been qualified for the Olympics. You broke the British marathon record. How's that been for you, being rewarded in that context for the work that you put in? And how has that affected how you see yourself, your dreams? Is it, taking that full-time jump to France? How has that all kind of worked?
So yeah, over the last 3 years, I've made a massive progression in terms I was saying before, that I was never in contention to qualify for the Olympics. I've really matured as an athlete in those last 3 years, and it's matured me as a person as well. And it just feels great because I've made that it's high risk, high reward type thing. I've made that huge risk moving to France and stuff, and taking myself out of my comfort zone. I could have just gone along with the flow and taken the comfortable decision to just move to Loughborough, 2 hours away from my family home, and just swim there. But I didn't choose that. I decided to make the difficult decision and move to France, and it's paid off, and it feels really rewarding. And I always said, in some of my interviews before the Olympics, throughout all that training that I was doing in the last 2 years leading up, because I moved to France in 2019, it's just in the back of my mind, all of that sacrifice that I've made moving there and stuff, and just also imagining the other swimmers who are my competitors within Britain training in Loughborough, and just imagining myself like beating them, but I'm not actually racing them. So so yeah, it's been very very good.
What was it like when then it all got delayed, and how did that affect you? And then how did that affect qualifying? Had you qualified already before 2020?
I hadn't qualified already.
Okay.
So I had just qualified for the qualifier. So
Okay.
it was Doha 2020, a World Cup. It's like the most prestigious World Cup out of the World Cup series in open water swimming. There's normally 10 each year.
Yeah.
And I just qualified to go to the qualifier that year, which was going to be held in Japan.
Yeah.
And then I'd gone back to France, even more motivated. I've had this success. It's like so much momentum going forward. I was feeling amazing in the water. I did a month of training, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and it's just there like, what the hell has happened here? Next thing I know, I'm on a plane back to the UK, because the UK was 1 week behind France. So I was there like, okay, I'm going to go back to the UK and keep training, because I thought the qualifier was still going to go ahead. So I quickly jumped on a plane, did a week in the UK, and then the UK caught France up in terms of the COVID lockdown. We went into a lockdown. And then I'm quite fortunate. I have a swimming pool at my home. It's 18 meters. So I was, my dad's like always been passionate about his swimming, but he's not very good. He just swims like granny breaststroke. So we were swimming each day. And for the first like week, I was doing sessions that my coach, Philippe, was sending me. And then after that, it became so mentally hard training by yourself. Because my dad's not really training with me, as he's just in the other lane swimming some granny breaststroke. So then I just decided to just set myself a target of just swimming 30 minutes every day and just maintaining it, because I knew that it was going to ease finally and I was going to be able to continue training again. And so I just maintained it, kind of thing. Came back at the start of June. I came back to Saint-Tropez rather than Montpellier, because the Montpellier pool was still like locked up. So I came back Saint-Tropez. We were in like bungalows. We had the whole campsite to ourselves in Saint-Tropez, because our coach knew the camp owner, and also the campsite wasn't able to open anyway. So we got it at a really discounted price, because Saint-Tropez is almost like Monaco in terms of how expensive it is. So we got it at a discounted price. We were there as a group of 20 swimmers, just training each day, and then like with the beauty of Saint-Tropez and the summer and everything. And so that was a really nice thing after the whole 2 months of lockdown and stuff. And then it kind of just resumed again, all of it. I was able to keep doing competitions within France. I went and did the Italian Championships in Piombino. I then did the French Championships, the 25k, where I broke the British record in that. And then Christmas, and then Doha in the February. So whereas some of the British athletes weren't able to keep training, because you weren't able to, because Britain was like quite an infected area and that. So they weren't able to fly out to the competition that I was doing, whereas we could just drive from France to Italy. So when I did all these competitions, we were just driving there. So it was I was quite fortunate in terms of that with the whole COVID. I think it was an advantage for me, because leading into the qualifier, we did like a Zoom call with the athletes who went. This was in like May or June time, and it was there like, Hector's done 5 races, and you guys, you've only done 1. And so that's when I was there like, I've got an advantage here, and a lot of these people and here. So,
but that comes back to your decision to move out there, and obviously you've paid off. And the risk, making those decisions like that, obviously there's pros and cons in all these aspects, but in that time you and you stuck through it, and you survived it and all that kind of thing, and got used to it. And now obviously it's given you, obviously a bit lucky, but it's given you that reward regardless, which is down to your decision. So you've got to be kind of, I guess, proud of yourself, and also, this is what I did and this paid off. Let's go. So obviously, how did the qualifier go? And then what was then like the progression to the Olympics?
The qualifier was a really good experience, because obviously when you, like I was going back to my point earlier, that when you get to these final big competitions that you've been doing all your training for, and you've gone through all of that like lack of confidence and swimming badly in those competitions where you're not rested for and freshened up, this is the big one that you've envisioned and you've visualized, and you want to swim well there. And I arrived there, and I was all pumped up and everything ready. And then like 3 days before, I got ill. And I was there like, oh well, I've left my air conditioning on. That's why I'm ill. So I went to the doctor, and she was there like, oh, it's nothing to worry about at all. Don't worry about it. We'll just give you some paracetamol and you'll be fine. Like calming me down. Obviously, she's not going to be there like, wow, it's ruined. All your chances are over. You're not going to qualify. Yeah. So she's trying to like ease the situation that happened. So I just told myself that like great athletes just overcome that type of thing. It's like it's just a barrier in it coming my way. And I've done all of this training, and I know that I'd out-trained any of the people racing in that race, and in terms of distance. So it was just about being confident in my ability. So I went into the race. I knew that because I was ill, I didn't want to be bold and just go out from the start. I don't know if you know like open water tactics, but like it's like cycling almost. It's like a lot of slipstreaming and stuff. No one wants to go. Not many people want to go to the front and do the work because it's like 30% harder. Yeah. So I just sat back and did the race to as like the shape I was in, and then came through at the very end, and I knew that my sprint speed I would be able to be overcoming most of the swimmers in that race, and so just came through at the end and won it.
Amazing. That's great. And then obviously building up to the Olympics, what was like obviously your flying motivation wise, building up to the training block for that. And then what was Tokyo like in that whole Olympic experience?
So after the qualifier, it's like I'm really ecstatic and everything. I've qualified for the Olympics. It's amazing. I've achieved what I've wanted. I then flew back to France, and like my coach didn't really care that I'd qualified for the Olympics because he's had loads of Olympic medalists and stuff. For him, it's just, he always says, there's no point going to the Olympics if you're just going to go there and compete. He always says that if you're going to go, you've got to go and achieve something. So he didn't care at all. He like gave me a small well done and said, right, we're going back straight to it. So I get back, and that evening we've got like a set 2400s. So and with a warm up as well before it. So it was like a 10.5 kilometer set.
Oh, Jesus.
And most people after doing a 10 kilometer race on the Sunday would swim easy after it. Like would swim like half a week, even a week easy. Not me. I was straight back in. And because I'd been ill before the qualifier, I was terrible in this session, and I thought that it was all down to that, me being ill. So I got progressively worse week by week. And then within the third week of getting back from the qualifier, I was like, hang on a minute, something's not right here. I've got something wrong. So I went and took some like blood tests and stuff, and then I took a test for glandular fever, and it turned out that I had glandular fever, or had it. I'm not sure if you're aware about glandular fever, but when it comes into your body, if you don't take a test within a month, you can never know when you've had it. But like your antibodies and stuff can suggest when you recently had it, and my antibodies suggested that I'd had it recently within like the last 4 months. So and it's like a surprise because you think, oh well, when I had it, I wasn't tired like 4 months ago. Why am I all of a sudden really tired now? It can be like a flare up like that. So that was like a really difficult, like mentally, and all of the pressures and everything, thinking, oh my God, I've just qualified, I'm ecstatic, but now I've got to deal with this. And in my mind, with my coach, like putting things in my head that there's no point going to the Olympics unless you're going to achieve anything. You start to get that mindset. You're there like, well, there is no point going to the Olympics unless you're going to achieve something. And I was like, well, I'm not going to achieve anything if I've got glandular fever, am I? So the pressure built, and I had to keep training. Most people would just stop swimming or doing any like exercise at all. That's what's the recommended to do. But I can't do that, can I? Like when swimming, you lose your feel so quickly for the water as soon as you take any time out. And I'm not going to do that directly before the Olympics. So I kept training. I was like 10% off what I was hitting in terms of times, like before I'd had it all. So like mentally hard because you want to be in the best shape that you possibly can. It's like the Champions League, isn't it? If you're going into the Champions League final and you just broke your ankle or something like Ronaldo did in the Euros final, it's so upsetting. So I just had to like overcome all of that and tell myself that it will be fine once I got to Tokyo, and that the race would be fine. And then when I got to Tokyo, I kind of just forgot about it. All of the whole atmosphere and the environment of Tokyo and everything, and just enjoying the moment. And then then the race, but the race it affected the race. So, but it didn't affect my experience of Tokyo. I really enjoyed the Olympics and everything. The only thing that like is the bad memory from Tokyo is the race,
Yeah.
which is, I guess, the most important part.
Well, do you mind delving, explaining a little bit what happened? Because obviously, I'm assuming people listening haven't heard too much about it.
So it's like how I was feeling was that I've been watched, because open water is not really much of a spectator sport. Mm-hmm. So no one really watches all my races all year round when I'm achieving my results and stuff. So then when everybody's sending you messages before the Olympics, and also all of the friends who aren't really friends, like start messaging you, they're like, oh my God, you're going to the Olympics, and start being your best friend again type of thing, So I had loads of people messaging me. And I was like, just thinking it all in my head, like, oh, I've really got to perform here because everyone's watching. It's not like these other races where no one's watching. I wish they had been watching those, because then they would know what I'm like as a swimmer. But this is where everyone's going to see what I'm like and where I am in terms of how competitive I am in the world.
So it'll put a lot of pressure on your identity, on yourself, like your self-worth and your self-value. It sounds like a lot
my
of
ability,
there's a lot of pressure on that.
Dived in, really high heart rate throughout the first lap, just like stressing out, and also because it was like a race that no one's ever seen before. There's a German guy called Florian Wellbrook, who basically he's the first guy to successfully do this. Just go out from the start and lead the whole way and just break away. Because there was a guy called Gerard Port in 2016 who tried this. He was an Australian, and he just went out from the start, and the commentators, they're like, he's crazy, he's never going to be able to do this and what. And after he had like 1:15 at one point ahead, which is an awful lot.
Yeah.
And after like 7-8K, he just started to die, and then they all caught him up, and he came like 20th, and he finished 40 seconds behind.
Yeah.
So he hadn't achieved it, but this Florian Wellbrook's the top swimmer in the pool. So he was able to do it, and he's basically just stretched the whole race out from start to finish. And so I'm swimming along at the start with really high heart rate, and then it just gets even worse. You start panicking. You're there like, oh, the race is over now. I'm in like 15th, and once you're in 15th and it's stretched out, you can it's pretty hard to catch that back up, because there's no like slipstream, because it's all single file.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of added to it all. And then the temperature was 30 degrees. I've never raced in anything like that before.
Crazy.
I've never trained in anything like that before. The hottest I've raced in is probably 23, 24 degrees. So it's like putting your face in a jacuzzi or something.
Yeah.
So then you just get even more overwhelmed. And then after lap 3, I managed to calm myself down. And then I was in like 15th, 16th, and I bought a few positions back. I was in about 11th, 12th. I was just trying to make the best situation out of a bad start. Type of thing. I knew that I wasn't going to get my dream, like a medal or anything, or do anything special, but just trying to get like the highest place I possibly could. And then the last lap going in, I'm going past this Australian, caught him up. I go past him, and he just elbows me in the eye. Like, I'm not sure if it's deliberate or it's an accident, but my goggles like snap. I can't see anything. They sink. I can't see anything in my eye.
Yeah.
I'm screaming, my eye, my eye, my eye. And there's like some like lifeguards around on paddleboards and stuff. And I swim over to them, and they're like, my eye, my eye, my eye. It was a woman, and she didn't speak any English. And so she was just looking at me like horrified. Like I thought I was like a lot, like really had fallen out or something, like in Pirates of the Caribbean or something. And she was just staring at me and like horrified. And I was like, is it okay? Is it okay? And she wouldn't give me a response at all, which made it even worse, stressed me out a lot more than I needed to. And then the jet ski came over to me. I touched the jet ski, and then the man said that my eye was fine. I had like a cut. I don't know if you saw any of the photos of it. There's probably some on the internet somewhere. And touched the jet ski, turned onto my back. He said it was fine. And then the jet ski started moving, and then it hit me. Like, it just hit me like I can't finish the race now, because I touched the jet ski, and once you're on the jet ski, you can't be there like, actually no, I'm getting back in now. I can see again. I'm going to get back in and finish it. You can't do that. So then it was just like, I'm not an Olympian, and I was just telling myself that I wasn't an Olympian because I hadn't finished. And that was a bit of pill to swallow. And then like all of the medical team just like tried to calm me down and stuff. And so yeah, bad memory.
How's it? Is it still quite bad and difficult looking back, or how do you see it kind of now, a couple months on?
It's it's like I feel like it's worse a couple of months on, because in the
Mm,
moment I was just like, oh well, I couldn't help that, could I? I just got elbowed in the eye. But it's really now it's really like I'm that guy who just got elbowed in the eye and I didn't finish. You know, no one
hmm
people just see that for its face value on paper,
hmm
and so yeah, it's worse I think now than it was when it happened in the moment.
Yeah, no, it's obviously it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to face when you build up for so long, like for something like that, and obviously how passionately you talk about those big events and stuff like that. There's a obviously, you as you get older and stuff like that, there's going to be lessons you take from that, from the heart rate at the beginning and the temperature and stuff that you do learn about yourself as a swimmer and obviously as a person. Do you think, I obviously get the sense as well from the way you've talked about your training and everything, that come 3 years in Paris or 4 years or whatever, 3 years, um that's fuel, right? That's
Yeah,
fuel to
um,
go before.
yeah, exactly. There was a guy I remember reading a tweet after saying like this guy's a pussy. He should never
Hmm
represent Team GB again.
hmm
And I was just there like in my mind like, oh my god, like that is my fuel for Paris. Like
hmm
that's in the back of my mind. I want to go to Paris and just like get that medal and just prove it all wrong, type of
hmm
thing, and just forget forget about Tokyo. It was an amazing experience going, but in terms of my swimming result, it wasn't what I wanted. I've
hmm
experienced all of that Olympic culture now. I want to just go and get what I'm in the sport to do, and what like my dream is.
Yeah, how it's obviously when athletes have these difficult experiences performance wise, especially, it's really difficult to detach from the performance from you as a person, and not identify with, like, this isn't me, this isn't my ability, this isn't my self-worth. And it's a really kind of interesting journey that you also say at the same time, like, it's great for athletes to fail and to face these things. And so, as you face them now and it's really difficult, I can always I already kind of see that the growth that comes from that you're going to have from that, learning that this guy called you a pussy or whatever, the different, how even worse, how you would have spoken to yourself in those moments, and how you speak to yourself because of it, because you're always going to be your own hardest critic. And I know
Yeah,
the same for me is that the pressure you put on yourself when you don't succeed and all these things, and the confidence you drop and the way you talk to yourself negatively and put yourself down and sabotage is really, really difficult. But the way that what comes from that space and what comes from learning these things and being aware of them gives you an advantage over these people that have never faced those things, that haven't come to terms when things aren't going right, that haven't come, this sensitivity and awareness of what failure is. And you've survived, you're still here, you're still a
yeah.
swimmer going for Paris.
I think like to summarize it, it was self doubt. Self doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so much momentum in those 2 years that we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
just progressing from like the next step to the next step every competition, and then finally I just hit a barrier and it went bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to live with that, because you're progressing and progressing, and you just see it going better and better and better every time, and then all of a sudden you don't get the race outcome that you want, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to deal with, um, and especially when it's on the biggest stage of them all, the Olympics.
Yeah. What would your advice be to, let's say, let's say a footballer, let's say AFC Wimbledon, one of the young players gets on and you make it to the FA Cup final, dream situation, whatever, and has an absolute stinker, whatever, comes off and gets the hat. What would your advice be for someone like that, let's say, who, having been what you've gone through this summer, what would you say to them?
Like, use it as motivation. That's what I'm doing. That
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not like I know it's a similar situation what you described, like Bukayo Saka in
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
Euros. What he
Mm-hmm.
I know his was racial, which is disgusting, but he also received like a lot of hatred for missing the penalty, didn't?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's just got to use that as a burning fire inside of him, as
Mm-hmm.
motivation to just keep going. And like it would be the same for like an AFC Wimbledon youth player,
Mm-hmm.
if they
Yeah.
messed up or had a stinker in the FA Cup final. I think it's just you gotta pick yourself up. There's no time to just dwell on that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep going and improve.
And
I think
I guess if you, that's the mirror that you now that I'm sticking up at you in that as you continue your journey is that's the exact same thing as you've got
yeah,
you've got the fuel now and to go out and to go and achieve these dreams. And like you said, obviously Paris is that dream and that's exciting. That's you got what you know what you got
yeah,
to do and it's incredible that
and it'll almost be like a home Olympics.
Exactly.
The closest I'll get, because obviously he's not going to be in London anytime soon, is it?
The true, very true. Well, exactly. So it's that's 3 years away. What's kind of is that the like that's your drive, that's everything, that linear focus, the blinkers on for Paris.
Yeah, yeah. And like I think it's quite far away now. Like in terms of now, like
Well, yeah,
this
exactly.
year, I've got the Commonwealth Games I'm trying to qualify for in
Okay,
the
cool.
pool, because
Yeah.
they don't have open water in that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to qualify on the 200-meter butterfly in that for
Okay, no
Wales.
way. Yeah.
So that's like a focus for this year as well. I've also got the World Championships in open water. I've got the European Championships that I need in the open water. I both need to qualify for first, and then
Yeah.
hopefully go get a medal.
Yeah.
That's the aim, and then it's like stepping stones in it. But yeah, Paris is the long-term goal.
What are your, if that's like your physical athlete swimming goal, what is your kind of like aspirations and maybe even short-term things, long-term things as a person in parallel to that over the next few years?
In terms of like, what do you mean by that? Like, what I would want to like grow as or mature as a person.
What's important to you as a person outside of the pool for the next few years?
I think I like doing charity work.
Amazing.
I last year I did a swim for UNICEF,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm now and I raised, this was in the lockdown. I raised money for kids who was like struggling with like the whole COVID and stuff, and who might have been hit by it worse than others. I raised like £1,500 from that. Now I'm involved in this 7 for 7 motor neuron disease for Rob Burrows. You know, the rugby player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His name's Martin. He's from Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing 7 Ironman, like 770.3 Ironman. So that's like a half Ironman. He's doing that one of them every day for 7 days straight in December to raise money for Rob Burrows. He's got like lots of athletes. I think he's got 70 athletes or something from 7 different or 6 different countries. Amazing. I'm doing it. I'm just doing the swim part. The swim's 2K. The swim's 2K. The bike's 90K, and the run's 13.1 miles. So I'm not entirely sure what that is. Half marathon. So I'm just doing the swim each day in December, so the 2K swim. But he's also got like runners who are just doing the half marathon each day, and then he's got cyclists who are just doing the cycle. But he's doing all of it each day for 7 days. So I'm involved in that. And then sometime next year, I'm a vegan, so I want to do. I want to swim the Channel at some point in my life. Yeah, it's just organizing it and getting a slot, because it's quite competitive in terms of getting a pilot and stuff. It's awfully expensive as well. Yeah. So I'm in the process of exchanging some emails with some of the pilots trying to get a slot, and I would like to do that sometime next year and to raise money for an animal rights cause or something.
Amazing. I think
because that's something like close to my heart. I've been been a vegetarian since I was born. And then I recently became vegan after Tokyo. So I would love to do like some charity work, like a switch from the Channel for an animal rights association, considering I've done it for UNICEF and now I'm doing it for this motor neuron disease. So yeah.
It's incredible that you've got kind of the values around doing so that and that generosity alongside what you know already and what you do. And I think to combine that with the performance aspect is really smart and really grounding, because you swim so much for this kind of, like, you think about it, if all these football games are around every single detail, and the same with your swims are around performance and perfection and blah blah blah, to then take yourself out of that and put yourself in the same swim in the water, but for something with the generosity, with a bit more fun, with a real good meaning. I think that's a great way of just enjoying, this is what I'm doing, this is what I can do to give to other people.
It's enjoying the sport without the competitive side to it, just enjoying what I do and doing it for a great cause.
And reminding yourself of why you do it, like in a way that this is, this is what I do. And I think that's a great kind of, or some great goals and aspirations alongside and passions alongside the performance aspect of, open water swimming.
And also achievements, because if
Exactly.
you do underachieve in terms of the competitive side of it, and that, but you're looking back at your career and stuff, I can still look back and say, like, hang on a minute, I've done a lot of great things here. I've done a swim for UNICEF, I've done a swim for motor neuron disease, I've done a swim for an animal rights cause. I've raised lots of money for them.
Yeah.
So I am, like, proud to have done of my whole swimming journey.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing, is like you just said, is that you don't tie it into this external performance achievement thing, which is what we all run on and like how the world sees us as athletes. But we are also just people just doing what we enjoy or trying to do what we enjoy and all these things. And this emphasis and almost like worshipping of achievement can be so detrimental. So to take yourself out of that, it's such a brilliant kind of approach to it. And like you said, you can look back and see that. So that's important for your character, for your relationship with swimming. I think that's honestly, that makes me think about football and how I can introduce that more into something like that, because it's a brilliant
Kicky-uppy
perspective.
challenge. 1,000 kicky-uppies.
Been there, done that.
Have you actually?
Yeah, I did it like one summer in like Italy, like on a holiday, and I said I was going to do 1,000 keep yuppies, so I went and did that. Yeah, I was like, I was younger.
Impressive. I can't even do like 5.
I think it was just like I just practice. Like it's
technique.
It's not really football. Like it's just like a little skill on the side.
It's right? Like Jeremy. What's the name? Jeremy Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you're doing a diving competition.
Yeah,
it's relevant, but it's not really relevant. But thank you so much for telling all the your stories and your behind the scenes. There's always one question we ask at the end of every episode, which is, what makes you more than just a swimmer? What makes you human?
What makes me human?
And not an athlete robot.
Not an athlete robot. Emotions, the ability to get knocked down after a competition and stuff, and feel that self-doubt and lack of confidence and everything from performing badly. All of the points I've also discussed within this episode, like after the Tokyo, that guy leaving that nasty message via Twitter, and me reading that and experiencing all of that, and how I want to do swims for like charity and stuff. I'm not just a robot, just one mission, going for one target, just eyes set on that. There's lots of different adventures that I want to go on within the sport, and I am a human at the end of the day, and it's just about enjoying it all, as well as getting the best results that I can, and enjoying it all. And
I think it's inspirationally put, and I love that, because it is about, being an athlete is failing and getting knocked down. That is a huge part of that. People, you see the success of the medals, and it's not all like that. And for a lot of people who do go on and win the medals, is because they've been knocked down and they can pick themselves up and grow from it. So a huge admiration for you for being honest and for telling your story. And it's for you to kind of face this at 20 and to be open about it and talk about it and face the difficulties and be honest and take responsibility for a lot of them. I think that only gives you kind of potential, and I only see kind of growth and exciting things to happen from it, as well as just the things you're doing on the side of your top performance swimming. So, all the respect to you. It's incredible what you're doing. I'm very it'll be exciting to see what happens and where you go from. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on and sharing it all.
Thank you very much, and hopefully maybe one day I'll see you playing AFC Woodland.
Maybe we will do our tickets.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.